Okay, U.S. Virgin Islands chess. Welcome everyone. December 21st, year 2020, and we're coming upon the holiday season and the New Year's. Welcome everyone. This will be my 30th virtual analysis of my own personal games, brought to you by myself, Colin Heim, from the online FIDE Arena. Your guys, your host, your instructor, your operator. Let me just say, it's been a real pleasure taking my own personal games to show and share with everyone. Mostly with black pieces. There's a few games with white, but let's go over another lesson. And this was a very long game against my opponent here from Spain, and we went for this Queen's Gambit declined Semi-Tarrasch variation. Okay, so guys, this is the Marshal. Okay, with Knight F6, Marshal. Anti-Marshal would be like something like F3 here. Knight to F3. Anyways, we saw Knight to C3, E6, and now Knight to F3 and C5. Okay, so this is the Queen's Gambit disallowed, Semi-Tarrasch variation, as we mentioned. Let's get right into this very technical game. Guys, brought to you by your host, and let's keep going, okay? Let's say how much we got in the tank. It's a very long game here as we look at the notation, over 60 moves. And let's go, guys. Chess is a very complicated game. It's all about how much you're willing to put into studying opening lines, main lines, theory, and as Garry Kasparov, a former world champion for over 15 years, 1985 to year 2000, mentioned, it's not enough to just say, okay, I'm a normal 1500, 1800 level player. If I want to get to the top levels, I have to get creative. So let's get creative. E3 played, so far a book move. And now another book move. C takes on D4, and now E captures. That was why E3 was played. And bishop to B4 now. Okay, so just pinning the C3 knight. And queen to C2. Okay, going for queen C2 is Garry Kasparov. Defense now here with the white pieces. So I castled short in the king side here in this position. And that was actually the best move recommended by the engine. Now, after doing some virtual analysis, guys, I thought about here, horse hop up to E5, but that's a little too early. That's a little premature. The best move in the position, guys, here is just short castles. Okay, and I knew that in this main line. Okay, so A3 now, best move. Bishop drops back to A5 and B4. Okay, got it. Now backing up all the way to C7 now. Obviously, guys, not something like this, because now the bishop is, it's not trapped, but you're just giving your opponent more tempos here, and that's not good. So now in this position, just bringing the bishop all the way back to C7 square. And after bishop to C7, my opponent pushed C5. Okay, so the best move probably was just to capture on D5 with the C pawn, but we saw C5. So now this gives black the opportunity to play B6, and now get the light squared bishop being carried on the queen side. Bishop to D3 played by my opponent now, and rook to E8. Okay, so good job so far, played by both sides in this Semi-Tarrasch Queen's Gambit not allowed. As I mentioned earlier in a video that I did, the Semi-Tarrasch variation for black is about 53% to 47%, so wow, according to Lichess database, there's a lot of chances for black to win in this opening. So furthermore, B captures on C5, B captures on C5, and now knight to C6, not allowing the C5 to progress on the queen side. Bishop to D2, played by my opponent. E5, fighting more for the center, not allowing a captures, and now my opponent played bishop to B5 now, attacking the unprotected knight. No worries, bishop to B7, and rook from F to E8 now played by my opponent. Okay, so now, guys, without looking at the algebraic notation, find the best move for black in this position. Find the best move for black in this position after I give you a couple of seconds. Find the best move for black. E5. Closing the center and also attacking the kingside horse. Okay. Horse drops off, goes forward to G5 now, wanting to reroute after provoking H6 from Team Black. And now knight H3. Okay. So A6 now attacking the light squared bishop. Bishop captures, and now black has a bishop pair. Okay, so two powerful bishops here on the queen side, holding it all together, so to speak. Now my opponent played knight to f4. This is what he wanted, he had thought about. But since it's such an active knight there on the king side, I just decided to capture with the light squared bishop, so now giving up the bishop pair, and now with opposite colored bishops, this is known to be a theoretical draw in this Semi-Tarrasch, but let's keep going. Congratulations if you guys have made it this far to move 21. Okay. Knight h5. Now this is what I had in mind, guys. Your instructor, your operator. This is what I had in mind. It says the best move for white is just to cement the bishop there on d6, and then maybe white has some good advantage on the queen side. But instead we see the bishop dropping back now to e3 square. And yes, now f5. Not wasting any more time on the king side, as now the center is solidified for Team Black. Remember, I got to play a5 earlier on there, guys. Okay, so queen to d1 now, obviously attacking the horse, of course, on h5. Knight reroutes back to f6. Good job. Rook to b1, looking to get some affluent play there on the queen side now after horse into g4 and rook back to f1. Now having to put more defense and more coverage to the f2 pawn as it's weakened. This is exactly what I had in mind, guys, in this line. Queen h4 now, and my opponent just played h3 now, attacking the g4 knight. This is exactly what I had all put together in my head. This is exactly what I signed up for. Knight captures, f captures on e3, and rook back to f8. Rook back to f8. Now you have to defend the f5 pawn. It was pushed because it wasn't backed up by the g7 pawn. And this is fine now. Black is not in trouble here after rook to f4. Can you guys find the best move now for black in this position? Just find the best move for black if you can. Can you? Okay, thank you guys. If you found queen to g3, that's correct. And after queen to e2 now, we saw g5, and this forces my opponent now to go for this queen exchange, or else he's going to lose the rook. You could drop the rook all the way back to f1, for example, but then in that case, guys, now just f4 is coming, and I think white can resign soon. There's just too much pressure there on the king side, and yeah, it's very, very scary. The trouble is coming. So in that sense, my opponent played the best defense, because now, as we notice, guys, after queen captures here on f2, now with check, now the rook can recapture, and the rook is saved. Okay. Good job, guys. We're about 7.5 minutes in. Keep going if you can, okay? Because I'm going to keep going. Okay, so f4 now, and f4. Now find the best move for white in this position. Well, if you guys spotted rook to b6, a good job, because that was actually the best move. My opponent captured first, e into f4, and then after recapturing the rook, he thought that it was best now for rook to b6. I guess it turns out rook to b6 is actually still best after e captures into f. Anyways, now taking the rook on f2, king takes into f2, and now swinging the rook over with f8 chat. This is exactly what I had in mind. Yes, the light squared bishop is still under attack here after the king is forced to move to, let's say, like e3 square, for example. e3 was not the best square to put the king. It was better to just keep it on the first rank. Anyways, this was a mistake, the first mistake I had in the game, or inaccuracy, as it was better, instead of playing bishop b5 in this position after checking the white king, to just play the move bishop. The engine doesn't like this at all, but the best move is actually just bishop to d7. And after rook captures, now you can start pushing here. And after something like pawn captures, bishop captures, and yeah, white's up a pawn, but white is also under a tremendous amount of pressure. Okay, despite having a pass pawn on the queen side. Anyways, that's why in this position, guys, I played bishop to b5. Now offering a pawn. This was not played in the game, but in a sense, now white is going to lose a pawn anyway. So after something like this, well, this is coming with check first, and you can always just keep checking the king here. And yeah, so this is all happening. And I know how to win this position with black, as there are two passer pawns. And yeah, I know how to win this. You guys should know how to win this variation as well. Okay? So none of that was played in the game. Instead, we saw just a4, right? Attacking that bishop. But now, guys, find the best move for black. find the best move for black in this position. Find where do I need to put the bishop now. Look at the whole board after I give everyone a couple of seconds. What did you find? Bishop to f1? Yes, Indian says is best. Now the g2 pawn is under attack, and now, yeah, sure, the rook can capture on h6 or a6. And that was exactly what was played in the game. Rook captures on h6, and now king to g7, now just attacking the rook on the dark square. Okay. Rook swings over to d6 now, and yes, capturing on g2 with the bishop. And after rook to d7, black knows what he's doing. Rook to d6, now just taking the king for a walk. Taking the king for a nice little walk up the board there, guys, on the king side. Okay. And rook to f3 check now. The trouble is coming for our team white. My opponent here from Spain. I thought he did a good job in this game, but just coming up a little short. I think that the dark squares were just in black's favor here with the light squared bishop. Light squared bishop for a knight. I think the light squared bishop here is probably worth about 4 points, and the knight may be worth about 3. So let's see how this continues. Now bishop into h3, knight into f6. That's coming with check. Where's the black king going? Well, it's going up the board, and now I'm ready for a forced checkmate. Rook to d8 now, and pushing, right, the passed pawn. Passed pawns must be pushed. So that's e3, and don't worry about rook to h8 here, guys, because there's actually an open square here for the king. Just king to g3. And after my opponent threw a check here with horse to e4, now king is coming up the board even closer now. So now we are really talking about checkmate. Okay, so in doing so, check, forking the king and the g5 pawn, capturing the g5 pawn. But hold on, guys. This loses immediately. This loses the game on the spot. And now I encourage you guys to put this position over your chessboards at home and try to find out what white has to play in this position if they want to just continue playing. So let's start off with a random move. Let's start off with something just like rook to g8. Well, then that means queen to d1, check and mate. How to defend. Only one move to defend to prolong the game anymore, and that is knight to f3. Yes, Team White is forced to give up their only minor piece in this rook minor piece in pawn endgame. Yes. So without even thinking, now king captures. Something like bishop captures isn't good now because you can just check the king forever, or maybe forever. So capturing with the king. Be smart, guys. Capture with the right pieces. Okay. Rook to f1 check. King to e4 now. Check again to the black king. Now capturing another pawn. So after rook to d1 check and king slides over to one square, this game is over. Rook captures, and can you guys use a little insight? Can you find out why this is ending? Team Black has a whole bishop for no compensation, and there's a king all the way still on the first rank, and there's also a pass pawn on e3. Okay, guys, use your logic, use your chess knowledge, and find out that after c6 and king to c4, let's take it back, king to c4 and c7, guys, the bishop has its diagonal fully covered. It doesn't matter. We're going to gobble up the c pawn as well as the a pawn here in this position. And after sidestepping over, taking a step to the side now, king b4. No, just bishop captures. Yeah, bishop captures, and now let's find out what to do. Let's demonstrate now how to win this endgame for Blake. King to b3, king takes a side over step, and now guys, if you found the move bishop to f5 in this position, congratulations, you are cutting the king. You are cutting the king. There is no progress to be made to defend this a pawn, and white can dance their way through this endgame and be prepared for termination. And that is exactly what happened, and we can stop here with queen to e1. I'd like to congratulate you guys for making it 14 and a half minutes in. It was a very complicated game of chess, and you should have gotten a lot out of it. Please feel free to rewind the video, set up certain spots at home, over the board, tactically find your way about this game. If there was any mistakes you saw on the side of Team Black or Team White, please let me know in the comments below. And we can stop here. Happy holidays. Everyone take care of yourselves. Good luck with your chess online and over the board. Happy holidays. Have a wonderful week. And see everyone on the other side. Bye-bye. Your host signing off.